Hello and welcome back. Today's video lesson is on how I created this piece using the silicone cloud mat that's available to purchase on my website, which I'll leave a link in the description below. So this is a follow-on from another project that I done using the cloud mat that I wanted to give you other ideas for your mat. So this is what this is all about. So for this piece I have incorporated some of the acrylic shapes in here. I've also used white sand, which I've then coloured up and tinted here and around the edge, and I've also added some glass glitter to this piece to create this geode style cloud. So like I mentioned before, this is a continuation on this piece that I created. Now if you haven't yet seen this, you can find this on my website, which I will leave in the description below also. And on the last video I didn't show the attachments on the back, so this is what I've done. So I've literally just resined these attachments on the back, which I will do to this one when I'm next pouring some resin, and I've then got a little bit left in the cup, so I'll then attach a hanging device to the back of that one as well. So without further ado, let's get into how I created this piece. So starting off, I've poured a couple of drops of liquid pigment into a cup, and I'm now going to colour the acrylic shapes with that liquid pigment. Now ink, Bombay ink, acrylic ink or alcohol ink will do the same trick, so just add that on there. I'm now mixing up some sand with some resin. Now you could add a touch of white to this to give it a denser white. I found that I should have done that in the beginning, but I didn't. So next time I use this method, I will add some extra Resin angel white to that, just to give it a denser, more opaque white. It'll become apparent later when you'll see that this is not as white as it possibly could be. So all I'm doing here is I'm just spooning this around the edge, leaving a gap to pour the resin, and then just using a spoon I'm just smoothing those outer edges out. So using the same cup, I'm going to add more sand in here, and I'm adding a touch more of the liquid pigment, and then now colouring the sand to the colour that I require. If you want a darker colour, then add more pigment, and again just spoon it round until you have your shape completed with the sand. And then do the same, just smooth that out with the back edge of your spoon. So again, I'm going to add more sand. So this time I'm adding some blue pigment to the sand, and then just added a touch more resin and just tinted that sand there. And because I wanted a darker blue, I made sure that I had plenty of pigment in with that. And again, just spooning that into position. It's just a little bit easier to use a spoon to get that in the right place. I recommend that you let this sit for about half an hour before pouring your white, just so that your sand cures up a little bit so you don't get too much of the colours running into each other. And again, using the spoon, just apply your colours in line form around your geode shape. I'm just going to alternate between darker colours and lighter colours so that I get a good contrast between the colours. I mentioned earlier about my other fluffy cloud piece that I'd done last, that's available on my new membership website. So if you want to see this in a more real time rather than time-lapse, then please consider subscribing to my new membership site, Sue's Creative Circle. I will leave a link for that in the description below. So getting back to this, like I say, I'm just alternating between colours and just creating lines between the two, just to differentiate between the light and the dark areas. And as you can see there, the white sand is not as white as I would have liked, so I do go in later and add a bit of white on the top. Ideally I should have added the white in with the sand, but it's a lesson learned and one that you can avoid yourself in the future. So keep adding your colours until you've covered the whole of your mat. Then I would recommend then letting it sit for a further 30 minutes to allow the resin to cure slightly, because we're going to be adding some glass glitter to this, and as glass glitter and regular glitter has a tendency to sink, by letting it cure for a little bit you can then add the glitter and the glitter will sit more on the surface. So I'm also adding some extra acrylic diamonds here and there just to give it a little bit more texture and a little bit more added interest around the place. And then the glitter is going to go on top of the sand. It works really well on the dark areas of the sand and in with some of the colours as well, and in around the stones. It gives you a nice sparkle. And then just give it a quick zap with the heat gun, being careful not to melt your silicone mat. So once you've finished playing around with that, just leave that to cure overnight. Note that some resins can take up to a week to fully cure, so remove it from your mat and then leave it on a flat surface until that hardens fully. As you can see, that's quite bendy, so I'm just going to leave that for a week now before I come back to it. As always, I hope you enjoyed this quick video. If so, please give it a thumbs up, or better still, subscribe to my channel. As I mentioned earlier, you'll find handy links in the description below, so go and check those out. So until next time, bye for now.